What the Sam Hill's going on here?
The Rewatch Podcast presents the Lois and Clark Rewatch, dedicated to the series Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman on ABC. Join us each week as we investigate the origins of the Man of Steel and uncover crime in Metropolis. Send your feedback to the Rewatch Podcast at gmail.com. Join us on Facebook at facebook.com/rewatchpodcast or follow us on Twitter at rewatchpod.
Oh, hey! Let's get back to it.
And welcome back to the Rewatch Podcast and our Lois and Clark Rewatch. I'm Cory.
And I'm moving on up to the east side, to that deluxe apartment in the sky.
How did I know you were going to go there?
I had to do it.
Nice.
I mentioned it last episode. Had to go further.
Well, welcome back, everybody. We were off for a few weeks, but we're coming back strong.
Yeah, I had myself a little vacation there. Went out of state to a couple different states actually, and you were getting slammed at work, like you were saying. You had a lot of stuff to do, and then when I got back, I just hadn't had time to actually even watch the episodes to record, and you had jury duty, I believe, right?
Yes. Ugh.
Yes, doing your civic duty. You're such a good citizen.
I know. I didn't end up having to do anything, so yay.
Oh, that's good. That's good. We didn't want to, do a bad job and rush anything, so we figured let's take an extra week off and call it our summer vacation, you know?
It ended up being 3 weeks instead of 2, but hey, exactly. You don't want to hear us half-ass this kind of stuff.
Exactly.
And it's been so long that it's Christmas. Merry Christmas, everybody.
It's been so long. We just went right ahead. Yeah.
Yes. This week's headline reads Seasons Metal, and we will be discussing Seasons Greetings and Metallo. But before we get into anything, just a quick follow-up.
All right. So we talked a couple episodes back, I think it was, about the clones, the old gangster clones. What was it? That old gang of mine. Yeah. And in there we had William Devane. He played Al Capone. And you had mentioned he had been, he was pretty big and this and that and commanding presence that he had and everything. Well, it turns out, I didn't even realize this, but I forget where I came up on this information, but it came up when I was looking at stuff for this episode. And basically he played the president of the United States in The Dark Knight Rises.
I really don't remember that.
I don't remember it either. But I was like, oh yeah, of course. The Dark Knight Rises, Batman, of course. I thought that was kind of neat, another little tie-in to the superhero world for him. But yeah, I guess he was in there. I don't remember exactly the details of it, but that's what they said about that.
It's been a while since I watched The Dark Knight Rises. I should go back to it.
Yeah, it was all right.
If only for William Devane.
If only for him, we will go back. We'll go back to that. But yeah, the second one was my favorite.
You don't like Bane? You don't like Bane?
No, we do not.
Might have to bust out a Bane for a quote vote one of these days.
Oh gosh, here we go. We'll have to get our reactions back for his Batman then, and I'll have to come up with some kind of Joker voice or some other Batman related voice then.
For sure.
Yeah, we'll just do it that way. Why not?
Okay, well, let's get into it. Our first episode discussion today is Seasons Greetings, written by Dean Cain.
Yeah.
And directed by Randall Zisk. And this originally aired on December 4th of 1994.
Merry Christmas. I love you.
Miss Duffy, will you put that down?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Shaw.
I don't know why you keep those fuzzy failures around anyway.
Oh, don't call them that. I love them. They're so soft and sweet. I think they're the best toy you've ever made.
Oh, really? Do these words ring a bell, Miss Duffy? Mister, your teddy bears suck. We hate these.
Children say things they don't always mean.
Blah. Would that were only true with adults who say things like you're fired.
Oh, you are too good for Metropolis toys, Mr. Shaw.
So are you, Miss Duffy.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Shaw.
Make something the children will want to buy, they said. Well, we're doing that now, all right. Being fired last Christmas was the best thing that could have happened to us. And now, we're going to make them pay for what they did. Oh, they're going to pay. And pay! And pay! And pay!
Seeking revenge for being fired, William Schott and his assistant, Ms. Duffy, devise a plan to destroy Christmas by infecting everyone with a spray that causes them to become extremely greedy, delivered via a spray from one of his invented atomic space rats. The Daily Planet staff fall prey to the rats as well, causing problems in the newsroom, but luckily, Ma and Pa Kent arrive and manage to help Clark snap out of his greedy mood. Lois and Clark do some investigating and find out that the chemical used in the rat's spray is temporary and renders harmless when boiled. When the news reports that the atomic space rats are being recalled due to the chemical, Schott releases his batch of chemicals into the Metropolis water supply. Clark and Lois find him and reveal that Miss Duffy has decided to leave him, not wishing to cause any more harm. As they take Schott to her so that he can say goodbye before going to jail, he saves a little girl from being run over, and is then surprised when the girl chooses a teddy bear he once created over the rats, restoring his Christmas spirit. Superman uses his heat vision to neutralize the chemicals, and then plays Rudolph to Jimmy, Lois, and Perry's Santa, delivering toys to an orphanage and getting Perry to his date with his wife.
Clark Jerome Kent, you get over here right now.
What? What'd I do?
You know exactly what you did. Come in here right now.
Mom!
I am so angry at you. I just don't know what to do with you. I never spanked you. I never had to. But right now, I'd like to drop your britches and tan your hide like cheap leather.
Now, Martha.
Jonathan, he burned the heel off Lois's shoe.
Is that true, Clark?
When she took... she took something or...
Martha, I don't think he's quite himself. And neither is Lois, and neither is Perry.
Well, what in the world is going on?
I don't know. The last thing that I really remember clearly was being near the elevators and getting sprayed by one of those rats. And suddenly feeling like I wanted everything. And feeling like a little kid.
Okay, so let's get into the investigation.
So, originally, in the script, there was only supposed to be one jar of candy that Clark and Jimmy were going to fight over. And then when Clark distracts Jimmy, that's when he sucks it all up into his mouth. So they changed that for the actual aired version, for whatever reason. I mean, it still works. It doesn't, change anything in the story.
Well, it's kind of funny that Jimmy would look at the second jar and sort of take it away like that. So.
Yeah, exactly. In the script, for some reason, Perry said, I don't know why they changed this, but Perry says he's going to send Clark to his desk if he doesn't behave. In the aired version, he said, I'm going to send you to the dark room. So, I don't know. That's not really, it doesn't change much, but it's just an interesting choice. It's
I don't know.
All right, whatever.
It's kind of funny, dark room.
Send you to the dark room. Yeah. The dancing that Perry did on the table was not in the script, so they added that in. And then Miss Duffy said when they're going to talk to the longshoreman, she was supposed to be more nervous, and she says something like, if we're going to commit suicide, can't we do it normal? Can't we do it in a better way than this? And then he, Mr. Duffy, Mr. Schott, offers the longshoreman 5 times the amount of money. He says, I have 5 more times this money if you help me out. So a little bit more enticing to the longshoreman. Clark was supposed to just drag Lois out of the warehouse after they tried to get the information from that guy. Just like pull her by her hand. But I guess he and Terry decided, well, it'd be funnier if I just pick you up and throw you over my shoulder. And it made it much better, I think, because dragging it out by the hand is kind of like blasé.
Yeah, so. Exactly. Like, he's so crazy that I have to, fling her over my shoulder and drag her out.
Exactly. There was supposed to be a scene in there of a random Santa fighting with a Salvation Army worker over a space rat. So they were supposed to be seeing, Santa and the Salvation Army worker, the guys who ring the bells, duking it out, which I think would have been funny, but not the best message to send out there, And then finally, at the end, when Mr. Schott is putting the chemicals into the water, he has like a bunch of dialogue, that wasn't in the script that they added for, I don't know why, like, because when he is pouring it into the dialogue, it's very like mad scientist, like, I'll have Metropolis drink it, it's like, it made it a little bit cheesy there, but it's fine. They added that in there.
Yeah. Well, and there's nobody there for him to talk to, so he's even more crazy because he's talking to himself.
Right, exactly. And so now I did watch the episode 2 times, and the second time I watched it with the commentary, because I don't even remember watching the commentary originally. So I went ahead and did that, and there's not much to say here about the commentary, because there's different commentaries you can listen to, and I'm sure because you probably watched a lot of commentaries in your time being a movie buff. Yeah. So sometimes you get the commentaries where the actors are like they do a lot of talking about behind the scenes stuff and things that changed from what they were going to do and reasons why they chose a particular emotion to portray, and they get into it and they give you some really good meaty information. Same thing with like directors. Sometimes you have directors who they really say, well, we were late in the scene like this, and then this happened, so we had to reset and do this. Blah, blah, blah. Like they give you a lot of neat information. And then you have commentaries where the people just sort of look at the screen and they say, oh, look, now I'm doing this. Oh, yeah, and now see, she's smiling there. And then, oh, yeah, and now I'm walking over there and I'm going to get this instead. It's like, we can see. We're watching the same thing as you, You're not really telling us anything new. And that's kind of how the commentary was, unfortunately. It didn't give a lot of new information, which is, that's fine. He's excited about, doing a commentary on his episode, so it's fine. But there were a couple things in there that I picked out that I was like, oh, that's interesting. So originally, that Denise Richards was in this episode. This is like one of her first roles, I guess. And he tried to get the studio to keep her on as a recurring character. Apparently him and Denise Richards were friends, and they're still friends today, but they were good friends back then, and he got her on there and wanted her to be like a recurring character so that they could get better B stories between Jimmy, Perry, and this new character that Denise Richards was playing. But the studio like outvoted him. He makes a point. I forget what the name was. Like I forget if it was Michael or something like that. But he said, "Oh yeah," and Michael overruled me. And he has more power. So
well, it's interesting because we've been saying that. It's been very Lois and Clark focused. Which I mean, right. It's the Lois and Clark show. But it was nice in that first season when the side characters had their storylines and stuff, and they just haven't had that a lot this season.
Exactly, and it's good. And I was like, this is good because it shows that they knew, that he knew behind the scenes. He's like, yeah, we've kind of lost our way. It's not quite the way it was. We used to have, a lot of, maybe not a lot, but we had good exploration of, Jimmy and Perry and the side, Kat even, we had some good times with those characters, and now we've kind of lost that. So he tried to push that with Denise Richards so they can get the focus off of Lois and Clark every scene. Let's get back to a group dynamic here, but he was overruled. And then the other thing he wanted to put in was he wanted to have a scene of Clark with his parents on Christmas Eve. Like he actually went to his parents' house in Smallville, and they would be sitting there getting ready to eat, and Martha was giving a blessing or something about, how at the holidays it's good to be with family, being together with people you care about is important. And then it would cut to Lois, obviously alone, and then he shows up at the door. So it was just a little extra scene, and I don't think he said it was cut for time. It's just that he was overruled again. Like he wanted to do it, but they said, no, we're going to skip that and go to this next part instead.
No, I would have liked to have seen that he did go to his parents' place, but then he was like, well, Lois is all alone, so
right.
It's nothing for me to just fly back to Metropolis, spend some time with Lois, and then maybe tomorrow, Christmas Day, I'll come and see Ma and Pa again. Right. It's really
we can assume he did that because he did stay. So it shows he was thinking about it, but I guess they didn't want to spell it out, or maybe for time, perhaps. There you go. And there's some more commentary stuff that'll come up later on in the discussion.
I brought you a gift.
Oh.
Open it. I told Superman that story about your Christmas tree when you were 12, and he and I both decided that this might look good on that little guy.
It's beautiful. I've never seen anything like it. Where did he get it? Wow. I'm just gonna put it on. I love it. Oh. Carolers.
Yeah.
From angels bending near the earth to touch them.
I wonder where Superman spends his Christmas. He must still be pulling Perry around in that sleigh.
So let's get into the main story here. And the lead, the Toyman's tragic tale. Mr. Shot has created his atomic space rats with this spray that makes everybody greedy. And now, of course, Mr. Shot is played by Sherman Hemsley.
Yep.
And I think you alluded to the show that he was on.
Yes, The Jeffersons.
The Jeffersons.
And I was just trying to remember what her real life name was, and it's funny because in the Isabel Sanford, that's her name. So both of them from the Jeffersons. In the commentary, Dean Cain did the same thing. He was like, "Oh yeah, we got Sherman Hemsley, and we've got Isabel Sanford." He's like, "I almost forgot her name." So I did the same thing there. I'm in good company. I'm good company.
Yeah, I actually recognize this guy from another Christmas related thing. It's a movie called Screwed that he's in with Dave Chappelle and Danny DeVito.
Okay, yeah, no, I never heard of it.
Yeah, it's actually quite a funny movie. So he pretty much plays the exact same character in that movie. I'm assuming, he's that kind of guy. He's got that one kind of character set that he plays.
Yeah, he was in another TV show also called Amen. And it was, I think he played a reverend, and yeah, his mannerisms and everything are pretty much the same from one to the other. Now that I think about it,
yeah. And so as we get into the episode, Lois kind of starts off as a big Grinch.
Yeah, she does.
She's never had a fun Christmas with true spirit.
Right.
She is kind of, she comes from, I guess, broken home. Parents divorced.
Right.
She kind of speaks to them on the phone every now and again. Her sister doesn't live in town really anymore.
Right.
So, yeah, she's kind of just all woe is me, and, it's going to be that kind of story, really. Can Lois find the spirit of Christmas and all that?
Yes. It's a very special episode of Lois and Clark.
So we got her thing there. We got the toy man and his story going on. So Shot, turns out he was fired from his toy making job last Christmas. So he's kind of been hatching this plot with his secretary, Miss Duffy, for a year now. He wants to just make everybody pay. So let's make them greedy, and then they'll all just want to keep buying my atomic space rats, and that'll teach him, right?
Yeah. I guess it's a good plan. Why not?
Yeah. It does lead to some interesting scenes though of parents and old folks fighting each other.
It does.
You were talking about the two Santas. I kind of would have liked to have seen that. I thought it'd be funny.
Actually, no. Dean Cain's mother was in this episode.
Oh, really?
Do you remember back in the Smallville episode, she played, I forget what her name was, Maisie or something like that. She came over to the table and she made a comment to Lois or something about Clark being, he is what he is, or what you see is what you get. In this episode, she was the lady in the store that Lois started fighting with about the atomic space rats when she grabs it and they break. So that was his mother.
And it's kind of like they get to it eventually, but they kind of set it up first of seeing that, with children, it makes them argue and they all, they just want to be greedy. But with adults, it kind of turns them into greedy children. So they start acting very childish and, and greedy. So it does, make for an interesting thing. It doesn't last too long, thank God, because if
Right.
they were like this the whole episode, I just would have hated it. But,
Yeah.
you know, I think they give us just the right amount of, you know, everybody acting childish. And I think Lois, actually, was the best. You know, she had that, like, weird, giggly squee to her.
Oh
You don't need their own mind, patriots. I love them.
I know. I'm glad. I'm glad it didn't last very long because she's had that voice a little bit before. I remember in another episode or something like that. It was like a little bit higher pitched, and it's kind of it grates on my nerves. To me, it's like nails on a chalkboard. You know, it's like okay, that's enough. I get it. Okay, you know, move on.
Well, and the weird thing is that Clark is also affected by this.
Yeah.
Luckily, his parents are there in town.
Yes.
And I do love Jonathan's line because they come stumbling in and he's just like, this is the last time we do Christmas shopping in Metropolis. Why did we come to the city to do this? Well, because we need you to be in this episode and set Clark straight.
Exactly. Yeah, it was a funny moment when they show up and she sees what he's doing with his powers, you know, shooting the heel off of Lois's shoe, and whatever that line she had. I'm sure that's one of the audio clips we're going to be hearing in the in between parts there. But I never had to spank you, but my God, right now, you know, take you over my knee.
Yeah, it is a funny thing to think about too. Like, even if she did spank him as a child, would it matter? Would he feel it?
Right. It all depends. I don't think they make it clear in Lois and Clark, but it depends on when he developed his powers, because it depends. Like in the movies, in the Chris Reeve movies, he had his powers since he was a baby, but then in later incarnations of the character, he didn't start developing those until he was like a teenager. You know, so it depends on which continuity you're following, I guess.
Yeah, it's true. But we do get a drop line there because she does that motherly thing, calls him out by his full name.
Oh, yes.
Clark Jerome Kent.
Right. And Jerome, do you know why?
You know, it sounded very familiar, and I was thinking about it, and then I kind of forgot to look into it.
It's the creators of Superman. It was Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. So Jerry Jerome was his name. So
there you go. You know, of course, he snaps out of it pretty quickly because, well, he's Superman, right?
Exactly.
And he gets everybody else cleaned up, and they've all got, like, hangovers from it as well. And he has to put that on, like, oh, yeah, I'm totally hungover.
Exactly.
And this leads Lois and Clark to investigate. So they start at the most logical place, the distributor of the atomic space rats. And this guy is like off the wall. Like, it's like he's been around this stuff for so long that he's like on like 50 million lines, like bidding people against you. You want some, then you gotta pay for it, right?
Right. Do you know who this actor is?
No, he didn't look too familiar.
Yeah, he's a pretty, not super famous, but he's a comedian, actually. He's a pretty well-known comedian. I've seen him on various like stand-up shows, and he's played bit parts in other sitcoms and things like that. His name is Dom Herrera is his name. Pretty decent comedian. Like I said, I think he had I think he may have even had his own show at one time on like one of the cable networks. I forget which one. I thought there was one. If I remember back in the day, I remember watching it, but yeah.
Yeah, and of course it's like he won't give up who makes them or anything, but because he's like so super distracted, and then Lois is acting all crazy as well, that, you know, it gives Clark the opportunity to figure it out pretty quickly.
I actually thought she did get sprayed again when it went off, but then she explains, you know, oh no, I held my breath.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Because there was that voice again, you know, the voice came back. I was like, oh my God, there it is.
I guess she's a pretty good actress.
Right.
The character Lois, she has to play that. She has to go back into it. She's just like, no, I held my breath. I'm fine.
Gets right into character. Now, I thought this was funny. I didn't understand like why they even needed to even show this, but it seems like this atomic space rats are everywhere. It seems like people are buying them. It seems like this guy is distributing them. You know, he's doing his job. You know, I mean, he's making more money and trying to hold them back a little bit. But I don't understand the reason why Toyman, why he had to go and hire longshoremen to be his stock boys.
Yeah, I don't really understand that part of it.
You know? Because it's like they had to go and hire them first. He had to pay extra money to hire them. And then they had to break into all these stores that they were going to deliver them to. I mean, I'm sure it doesn't make sense to me.
I guess maybe like he figures that all the store owners have all been exposed to this stuff. So he can't trust that the people who own the stores are going to put the stock out for more people to come and buy some stuff. So that's why he hired all these guys to make sure it was in every window, it was on every shelf.
Right.
But you're right, they would have had to like break into the stores and stuff to do it. Like, are these people just letting them in to restock their shelves for them? Or whatever. I
know. I was like, okay. I mean, it was a funny scene when he walks up and, you know, and they're all like tough and everything and they're a little scared and everything. But I was like, I don't understand. Why are we...
I also think in real life, if he just walked up to all these like grizzled guys who, some of them may actually be homeless because they're not working over Christmas, they got no money.
Exactly, yeah.
And he just pulls out that big ass wad of cash. I think in real life they would just roll him, right?
Yes, exactly. Give me that cash. Get out of here, little boy. You know, exactly.
But Miss Duffy, she starts feeling bad about it. You know, she had this whole thing about how because he made this teddy bear that says "I love you," and he goes, the kids don't like that. You know, that's why I lost my job and all that stuff. And she starts feeling bad, so he starts buying her off. You know, she's getting jewels, she's getting cars, she's getting clothes, and she starts to come around. But you know that doesn't last too long either. And Lois finds out about the spray, and she passes on the convenient info that boiling it will neutralize it, right? So that's like a throwaway line, 2 seconds. If you're not paying attention, you'll miss it kind of thing. But as soon as she said it, I was like, okay, so that's going to come into play later. And then, of course, he's dumping it into the water supply. So I'm like, all right, so Superman's going to have to use his heat vision to neutralize it.
Boil the water, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't very subtle, but it was okay, I guess. And then the whole thing plays out, you know. Shot is dumping it in the water. Miss Duffy leaves him and she goes to the orphanage to give them teddy bears. And it's this whole thing where there's this little girl who doesn't talk because this, this Santa Claus, quote unquote, works at the orphanage. So that was all set up. And then she says, I love you back to the teddy bear after nearly being hit by a car. And, you know, it's all very, tied up nicely in a bow to make Shot feel remorse for what he's done and feel good about helping children again, right?
Oh, yeah. And with the clearing up of the water, you know, like, what do you think of the special effects for that?
Yeah, it was cheap.
Yeah, and it's funny because that's another thing I remember from the commentary is that Dean Cain was like, okay, look. This looks really bad, but it was 1990, you know, whatever it was, 4 or whatever, 93. This is what we had, you know, so it's definitely not up to what today's standards are. It was like, yeah, we know.
Yeah, but it's like a super quick turnaround for Shot as well. Like 1 second, he's all dumping chemicals in the river. Then a little girl nearly gets run down by a horse and carriage. He saves her. She likes his teddy bear, and he's just like, "Oh, I feel so bad and embarrassed, Superman."
Right.
And he's like, "Okay, so that was like."
Yeah,
immediately.
Instant 180, yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, okay.
It's the Christmas miracle.
So, exactly, you know, that's what they're going for, Christmas miracle thing. And then Lois and Clark spend Christmas together. Oh.
Yeah, that was good.
And he gives her an actual star that their mutual friend went up and got for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know about the whole science of stars and everything, but I don't think that's how stars work.
And it really is just a cheap Christmas decoration, really.
Exactly.
Well, maybe not so cheap. It's a nice looking star, but yeah. He's like made of an actual star. Right.
Maybe, yeah, I guess maybe we could say that I mean, again, science, but I don't know. Maybe he could say that it was like star dust that he molded into a star, you know? But an actual star, I mean, he doesn't actually say it's an actual star. Maybe it is. Maybe it's just star dust that he got and compacted it together somehow.
Yeah, he kind of just does say that it came from like up there, so.
Yeah, because I know in the comics he has demonstrated his ability to like make diamonds by squeezing coal really tightly or something. So it's possible maybe he took stardust and did this with. I don't know.
So all in all, I mean, as far as the story goes, it's cheap and cheerful. Really?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, for a Christmas episode, it could have been worse.
Oh, yeah, it could have been. It was fun. It was a little bit of fun, you know. It was enjoyable, at least.
All right, well, let's do some bylines here. So, Perry and Alice, they're having their first Christmas alone.
I like the way you
wrote it. The kids are out
it.
of the house, and Perry wants to play some Santa sex games.
Yeah, that's the implication, yes. Hadn't thought about it, really. Like, I sort of, like, got the idea, but I like to actually see it written out. to say it out loud instead of just have it in my head, it's so much more like, oh my God, yeah, that's it.
This is something I actually kind of love about Perry too. You know, we do get the Elvis again. You know, he's up there doing his Elvis moves and all that. That was so good.
That was good.
But the idea that he brings up his wife Alice like all the time. We never see her. We don't.
Right.
He just brings her up all the time. So yeah, when he's talking to her on the phone and talking about wearing his sexy Santa outfit and they're gonna have the thing, and then he calls her up later after being sprayed. He's just like, I don't want to do this kissy face. I want to go to Graceland. And he's
exactly.
Like, it's great. We need more Perry.
Oh, we do. We definitely do. I was a little confused at first because when he's dancing on the desk, I'm like. I didn't understand. Like I missed the line where it said that they made the adults act like children, because I was like, well, dancing on the desk isn't greedy, But I'm like, oh well, okay. He wants to go to Graceland. That is a bit greedy. I get it.
All right. So what about Jimmy's Christmas crush, Angela? Denise Richards, and then going ahead and rigging the Secret Santa.
That was a neat scene. See, and I like that we got a little bit more with Perry, a little bit more with Jimmy, because we haven't gotten that this season. Really, they've just been there to like advance the plot, to help out the main characters. So this gives them a little more something to do. It's very like first season-ish for both of them.
And the play out of the Secret Santa as well. The fact that he's trying to woo Angela, but then she's like totally pissed at him for what he did. It may be a side effect of the fact that the studio didn't want Denise Richards in a regular role, but yeah, it kind of just it was there, and it was sort of just out of nowhere.
Right.
And it kind of had that feeling like, okay, we're never going to see Denise Richards again.
Exactly. Which is too bad, because it would have been nice. I mean, obviously she's a very beautiful, at this point, young girl, but I mean, it would have been nice to have her around a little bit.
So what do you think of Superman helping the orphans?
Oh, that's very Superman, like that's in the comics and things. That's definitely something that he would do around Christmas time. I think there's even been episodes where he's actually played Santa, like bringing toys and stuff to, orphans and people who don't have anything around the world. So it's that rings true.
Yeah, I liked it, just the whole bit with this, Santa who works at the orphanage and wanting to help, trying to go around and get presents, try to get local toy stores to offer things up. I liked it. It was nice. It was a good message.
Now, we didn't talk about this, but the guy who played the Santa that we kept coming up against, do you know who that is?
Yeah, he did look familiar, actually.
Yeah, his name, he's a pretty famous actor. He died actually last year. I didn't even realize that, but he died last year. It was Dick Van Patten. Now, I know him, I remember him from a sitcom he did in the 80s. Again, a sitcom. Yeah. Actually, it wasn't even, it was like an hour-long show, if I remember correctly, and it was like comedy and drama. It's like, I can't even think of a correlation to like another TV show, but it was called 8 is Enough, and he was on it. Willie Ames was on it, which he was on the sitcom Charles in Charge with Scott Baio. He was also, now probably more where most people know Dick Van Patten from is from Spaceballs. He was the king of Princess Druidia.
Ah.
The father, yeah.
Yeah.
Or Robin Hood Men in Tights, he played the Abbot.
The Abbot, yes, okay,
with that great line, "Hey, Abbot!"
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. He's like, "I hate that guy." That's one of my favorite lines. Anyway, yeah, he's pretty well known. He's been in a bunch of different movies and TV shows in his time. He had a good, long career. But yeah, that was him. I was like, oh, that's cool. They got Dick Van Patten.
All right. So what about Superman flying Perry to go and see Alice?
Well, like we said, we kind of talked about the whole Santa sex games. It's just funny. It's like, Perry's like, Superman, Alice is in a hotel across town. I got to get over there. Basically, Superman's, helping him get a booty call in there,
Yeah, and his Elvis Santa outfit was just...
Yes.
Oh, that was such a good touch.
Yes. Now, I don't know if you noticed this, and I noticed it, but then I heard it on the commentary and went back just to double check. When Lois is paying the cab driver, like she opens her wallet, and if you look at her wallet, there's a picture of Superman in there. Now, it's a picture of Dean Cain as Superman, like a promo shot. Yeah. I guess they had, and they cut it and they put it inside her wallet. So, and it's right there. Like you could, like if you're actually watching that scene and you look, that's right there.
I love it. We did have that thing too of she wears the Superman PJs as well.
Yes. And then finally, this came from the commentary, and I thought this was pretty funny. Now, I don't know because I don't live there, but you live in Australia, and maybe you can talk to us about what the term getting stuffed means.
Getting stuffed?
Yeah, have you heard that before?
Well, I've heard it in many different ways. So I guess if you went up to someone and said, get stuffed,
right,
it would mean like piss off.
Okay. What about if you were, have you ever heard it used in relation to getting a little something with someone?
Yeah, okay. I see where you're going with that, yeah. Getting stuffed.
Apparently, when this episode aired, that line caused a bit of trouble down in Australia.
Wow.
Because of that line, because Lois says to Clark, "Oh, you are going to get stuffed. Merry Christmas."
Well, again, get stuffed, eat too much food,
Exactly. No, that's how I took it. Yeah. That's how I took it. But like for Australia, I guess there was a little bit of uproar about this episode because of that line. Not like they were protesting, but they're like, "Oh my."
As if like nobody had heard of, eating too much, getting stuffed.
Exactly. I thought it was funny. It was funny.
Oh, well, there it is. So, yeah, I think all in all, it was a perfectly fine episode for what is just, it's a Christmas episode. So,
right.
I've seen it handled in worst ways.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get into this week's quote vote.
What's everybody standing around for? This is a newspaper, not happy hour at Buckingham Palace. What are we here, the Daily Planet, or second stringers from the Weehawken Gazette?
Am I making myself perfectly clear?
We had a few weeks, and we had a fair few people vote on it, and it actually came down to a tie, so I had to use my host privileges on this one again, and I like this one. And
right.
we got something new. I got something new for you.
Okay.
So let's try it out. Cue the music.
Kermit and a Russian guy walk down the street.
Did you get 3 yet?
Yeah, you?
No, I always have trouble deciding. See, I like the big pretty ones, but I feel so sorry for little scrawny one. I remember when I was 12, my parents had just split up. They didn't bother with 3. I broke into piggy bank. I went and found the ugliest, loneliest little tree I could find. I thought, if I could make that tree beautiful, that I would have great Christmas. So I decorated it with ribbons and popping corn and tinfoil.
And?
And the needles fell off and it turned black and Mother threw it out. I'm not child anymore. I should just get tree and have great Christmas, right?
Now that is the spirit. Yay!
Nice. Very good. And scene.
Scene.
Oh, yeah, that is a new one. I like it.
What do you think of my cliched Russian?
I like it, because I have a cliched Russian, too, so maybe we have to do dueling Russians at
Dueling
some point.
Russians one day.
I like it.
Oh, I love it.
Yes, I like how you changed it just a little bit to fit the Russian accent. That was good.
Okay, so let's get into our second episode discussion today. It is Metallo, written by Tony Blake, James Crocker, and Paul Jackson. Yes, 3 adults were involved in writing this script. Directed by James Begdonis, and this originally aired on January 1st, New Year's Day of 1995.
You would have died of those bullet wounds if your friend hadn't brought you to us. I saved your life.
Excuse me, we saved your life.
I have no feeling in my body. How come?
Well, that's because you're a, tell him, Emmett.
Hey! What is this?
Oh, great, a robot with a temper. Nice going.
John, we had to make you a new body.
Yeah, you see, the old one was, well, frankly, full of holes.
Look how strong you are.
What am I?
Well, actually, You're a robot.
Cyborg!
Cyborg robot. You're a mixture of man and machine. The best of both. There's no one else in the world like you. You're gonna be famous. Think about it, John. You can have anything you want. Together, we will own Metropolis.
I was just holding both of you in the air. Totally cool. Whoa! Yeah, like the $6 million man! Yeah. Do I run on batteries or what?
No. You have a very special power source. Let me show you.
Oh, what is it?
It's called kryptonite, and it never runs out.
When Lucy Lane returns to Metropolis with boyfriend Johnny Corbin in tow, Lois finds it hard to keep her mouth shut about her distaste for him, eventually learning about his past run-ins with the law. When a heist Johnny was involved in goes bad and he finds himself shot in the chest, his fellow criminal pal sells him to a pair of scientists, Emmett and Raleigh Vale, who promptly turn him into a cyborg to save his life. Johnny, in his new body, powered by kryptonite, proceeds to make his presence known, first by literally ripping off an ATM and then facing down Superman, overpowering him due to his weakness to kryptonite. Lois and Clark eventually find an address for the Vales with help from Jimmy, but Johnny shows up and kidnaps Clark, telling Lois to send Superman. Lucy acts as distraction so that Lois and Jimmy can later sneak in and rescue Clark, who's weakened by the kryptonite. As Lois goes to regroup with Lucy and Jimmy goes to call the police, Superman shows up, this time keeping his distance from Corbin, using his super breath and heat vision to disable him. Raleigh Vale grabs the kryptonite from Johnny, effectively turning him off, and escapes, while Emmett tries to get away, using Lucy as a hostage, but Superman stops him. Superman pays Lois a late-night visit and commends her on saving Clark and that they are lucky to have each other. After Superman leaves, Lois calls Clark, but having only reached his voicemail, hangs up.
Never thought I'd see the day when Superman would lose a fight. What are you thinking?
Superman was hurt. I don't know if he has anybody to turn to for help.
Guess I never really thought too much about that. Superman's always seemed so invincible.
Jimmy, I think it's time we had a talk about the quality of your work.
Well, that's great, Chief.
I can't tell you when I've been more disappointed. You let up. A great opportunity just slipped right through your fingers.
I don't understand.
Jimmy, you had a chance to shoot what every photojournalist dreams of, a defining moment in history.
My picture's on the front page.
Oh, yeah, I know that. But according to eyewitnesses, this Metallo left Superman beaten. Where are those photos? Those images that show us that we're alone and vulnerable. You don't have one shot of the Man of Steel on his knees.
I ran out of film, Chief.
Oh.
That's not true, Perry. I told Jimmy not to take those pictures.
Why would you do that?
I guess I didn't want the world to see Superman like that.
Alright, so we do have a fair bit in the investigation here.
None of it is really changing the story at all. Just things that they changed maybe for time, maybe for money reasons. Like this first one, it was supposed to start with the robbery in progress already and the customers, up against the wall acting scared. Rather than the way they did it, where he walks in ominously, And he was supposed to rip off the door to a steel safe, which I guess maybe that cost more money to make look realistic, So going this way where he just shoves his hand through it, it was a little bit easier to do. In the script, the cyborg is supposed to turn and walk towards the policeman, which is why the policeman says, hey, back off here, and then he shoots him. In the aired version, and this didn't, because I was like, why did he just, that's kind of police brutality there, It's like in the aired version, he just sort of turns around and the guy says, hey, back off, and starts shooting him. I'm like, oh my. Okay, let's not make a comment here on that, but.
Do you know how much paperwork you have to do when you discharge your weapon? Just chill.
Exactly. I was like, that's kind of aggressive there. But yeah, he was coming at him in the script, so it made more sense there. When they start looking in the box, when they say, oh, I've got a power source, this one won't run out, they weren't supposed to show that it was kryptonite. It was going to be like left up until later on for you to discover that. So it was just a choice there that they made. This I thought would have been nice to have seen. After Jimmy says, to Perry, I'm doing as good work as some of the higher paid, photographers, and he's like, what do you want? And he says, I just want a pat on the back, and he walks away. And there was supposed to be an extra shot of Perry looking after him and sort of smiling, like he knows, he knows what Jimmy wants. He's just going to string this along for a little bit.
Exactly.
So that would have been nice to have.
Yeah, I'll make Jimmy ask me for this
exactly.
pay raise.
Yeah, it's a little more character stuff that would have been nice to have in there. Lois improvised, or I should say Terry improvised her lines about not being good at making paper airplanes. It wasn't in the script. The lady running the hot dog stand, she had some lines. There was supposed to be a customer before Clark and Lois got there, and she says something like, be glad I'm out of onions. Your girlfriend might kiss you for a change, and then Clark asks for a hot dog with no onions because he says, I want my girlfriend to kiss me. And it doesn't really make much sense there because we know he doesn't have a girlfriend. Obviously the hot dog lady doesn't know. I thought they were trying to go for a thing where the lady was telling Clark that his girlfriend, Lois, would kiss him, but that's not how it actually was written, because that would have made some sense, if she had said that. But that's not the way they wrote it. So maybe if they had just actually thought a couple minutes before writing that line, maybe they could have gotten it in there. I don't know. iReactions did note that in Canada, and I think even here in America, that usually they let the customers put on the condiments. Usually the hot dog guys don't do that for you.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I remember back in the day, I've seen this a lot in TV shows where the hot dog guys would always put the stuff on for you. You'd order a hot dog and they would just, what do you want on it? And they would put it on for you. But as far as I remember, whenever I went to a hot dog place, like a stand like that, they always let you do it yourself.
Yeah, well, maybe they were going bankrupt from people using too much condiments.
That could be. Maybe.
We'll do it ourselves. You get your quota of ketchup.
Exactly. You get 2 packets. That's it. Now, when Angel shoots Johnny, and this is just a minor thing, it's like Superman was going to hear it. They were going to show him flying, and then he would hear it, and then he would come down, to investigate what that was. Just a minor little change, but nice. And then in the script, Clark accepts the aspirin when it's offered to him. He just takes it. But in the episode, Dean made the choice to change it a little bit there and say, what's this for? Forgetting that he's in Clark mode right there, trying to, I guess, further the idea that, Clark and Superman, it's like they're getting interchangeable sometimes for him. He forgets, it's like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm talking to someone who doesn't know that I can, I have these powers and I don't really get sick or have a headache. So I thought it was kind of neat to have in there that they did it that way, because he's feeling comfortable, with Lois at this point. In the script, Lois just stands by helplessly as Clark is kidnapped and doesn't do anything, but they eventually changed it to have her try to help him. She tries to get Johnny to stop, but, she can't, obviously. He's too strong. I thought that was good, because why would she just stand there and watch? It doesn't really make much sense. Yeah. And then finally at the end, this was kind of neat, and I wish they had kept this in. It was a scene with Lucy and Lois, and they're commiserating because Lucy's all depressed because Johnny was such a bad guy, and she has such bad luck with guys, and she says, "Mom asked me about grandchildren again," and Lois is like, "Oh, I know, blah blah blah," just complaining about moms like sisters will do. And then Clark, he walks by and says, "Hey, how you feeling? Everything okay?" And then he walks off, and Lucy's like, "You need to get over your Superman thing and chase that bus." And Lois is like, "No one asked you," and that was like the end of the episode there.
I kind of like that.
Yeah, I thought it was a neat. It gives a little bit more to the whole thing where Lois is feeling closer to Clark, where Clark feels close to Lois. So it's nice. I like it.
Johnny! In the flesh, so to speak. Oh.
Hi.
You like?
I like. But you didn't get that nice of clothes with just my tip money.
Well, obviously you haven't heard the news. Huh? What has my baby been locked up studying?
Yeah, all night. What?
What would you say if I told you that I hit the lottery?
Johnny! What's wrong? You're ice cold.
Oh, yeah, but the docs say they can fix that.
I don't understand.
Here. Feel. Cool, huh? And check out this emblem. The docs call it a Mobius strip. That means I am gonna live forever. Oh, don't be scared, babe. The chassis changed, but I'm still Johnny. Only better.
Who did this to you?
Some eggheads. You know what the great part is? Out of all the losers in the world, I got picked to be special.
Don't worry, Johnny. We'll get through this together. We'll find someone who can fix you.
Fix me? Yeah. Fix me? Well, there is nothing to fix. Haven't you been listening? I am the man now. There ain't nobody more powerful than me. I kicked Superman's butt yesterday. Where are you going?
I need some time to think.
About what?
Ow, you're hurting me.
I am giving you the chance to be on top of the world with me.
Johnny, you're hurting me.
I don't need you anyway. I can have all the chicks I want.
Alright, so let's get into the main story. And the lead here, metal miscreant misbehaves.
Yes. Whenever these, I like the alliteration just reminds me of like something from like the Super Friends, you know, like metal miscreant misbehaves. Meanwhile.
So we start off this episode with a robot right out of 1983.
Yes.
Pre-Terminator. Well, maybe
Yes.
around the time of Terminator. Maybe that's what they were going for. But this guy's got a mullet and everything.
Oh, mullet, his mustache and everything, right out of Magnum P.I. Yes.
Wow. Yeah, so he's like robbing a jewelry store, and the cops are baffled that this. I mean, they managed to kind of take the robot down pretty easily after everything. So for a super tough robot, yeah, he gets taken out. But that's kind of the impetus for the whole thing. Is that they want to make a stronger, better robot. Lucy's back in town to finish a degree or whatever reason they have for her being back there.
A new Lucy, by the way.
Yes,
not the same Lucy that we had before in the first season.
But Lois isn't happy with her choice in boyfriend, Johnny.
Yes.
He's this big lowlife who, it's that typical thing of like, hey, I've got some tip money here if you're down.
Right.
And he's like, no, I couldn't take that. No, take it. Oh, well, if you insist, And Lois is like, ugh. God, what a deadbeat.
Exactly. Yeah, and now, do you know who Johnny is?
Well, you seem to pick up on this. I'm assuming he's from a sitcom.
Yes. In fact, maybe going forward, most things you can just assume. If I say, who is this guy? You could probably just assume, oh, he must be a sitcom guy. Sitcom Tom.
Yeah, good old sitcom Tom. But, again, he does look familiar, but I can't place it.
So I don't remember how many episodes or seasons he was on, but he played Nick, who was the boyfriend of Mallory on the show Family Ties, Michael J. Fox's show. I don't know if you remember that.
Okay, I've seen a couple episodes of that.
Okay, well, he played the boyfriend of Mallory. Was Michael J. Fox's younger sister's boyfriend. She was Justine Bateman, actually, of the Bateman family, and he played her boyfriend. He was kind of like I don't think he has much stretch as an actor because it was a very similar character. The accent and everything was the same. He'd always be like, "Hey, Mallory, how's it going?" And like his like tagline in the show was like, "Hey,"
like the Fonz,
Yeah, exactly. So he would say that a lot in the show, from what I remember. And he was not well liked by the family because he was, this like biker guy, and not super educated, of course, like, he's played here almost. So yeah, that's where he's from. He was in a couple movies, I guess, but pretty forgettable movies. I remember watching one where it was about a vampire or something like that. I don't remember if he was the vampire, if he was just like the guy who had to fight against him. But in any case, yeah, he was back in the day. He kind of had a little bit of a run at that popularity there with Family Ties.
So, of course, we get into Lois and Clark sort of following up on this whole robot thing, and they're kind of following this lead about uranium. But, these brothers who are making these robots, they're named Rolly and Emmett, and they actually have new plans for a better robot with a human brain, and they need to replace the uranium because I guess it's too expensive, too hard to get, and all this stuff. And they've come across this stuff that they found at Lex Labs, I guess? somehow they came to have the kryptonite, and they're going to use that as the power source. They kind of they do this whole thing where they're like, well, let's put out the word, we need a fresh dead body.
Yes.
So that's kind of like where Johnny comes into it. He is planning this job with his buddy Angel, and of course this whatever it was that they did, they robbed a place or whatever.
It's kind of funny though. It's kind of funny. Like they put out the word, like you said. I'm just thinking about it right now. It's like, is there like a criminals Craigslist? You know, where you like post things like, we need a dead body. Now it has to be dead this many hours.
They did kind of comment on that, where they, because like one brother's like, well, let's put the word out on the street, and the other one's like, we don't know people on the street. We're scientists. Like, come on.
Exactly.
Somehow they figured it out.
Yeah, they had a good back and forth, these two guys.
Yeah.
The blonder one with the glasses, I've seen him before. I don't remember where, but he seems familiar to me.
He was in Boston Legal. I remember that.
Oh, that's why.
Yeah,
that's why.
He walked around with his hands down by his side, and he was like the shy guy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I thought I had seen him before.
Yeah, so they end up getting Johnny because he gets shot by the police and he's dying. So Angel's just like, well, I'll just like sell his dying corpse, make up my losses for this robbery gone bad or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So they turn Johnny into a robot, and I guess this is our quote-unquote Metallo. It's a different interpretation of the actual character, right?
Right, yeah. I mean, the origin is similar. Like, that's what, like, his body, I forget what actually happens in the story, but he does have a body that he gets put into powered by kryptonite. You know, he was human, and something happened to him, and they rebuilt him as a cyborg with powered by kryptonite. So that part is true. They couldn't do, they can't do a real Metallo at this time, you know, in the 90s on a show like this. Because the real Metallo, he can, like, absorb any metal around him and effectively become like a giant robot if he wants to, because he can, if there's metal around, he can absorb it into his body, which is kind of a neat power, and that's why he causes Superman so many problems, because he's not just strong, you know, he can become super huge, cause great damage, you know, he can turn his body into guns and stuff like that, because he can morph his body, basically.
Really, in this incarnation, it's just that he's powered by kryptonite, so when Superman gets too close, then he's really no match for Metallo, because Superman becomes depowered. But yeah, really, by the end of it, like, he manages to take him out pretty easily just by not going near him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he figures it out pretty quickly. So, you know, in that respect, it's a bit weak sauce.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Well, that's why I said when we were talking about this episode coming up, I was like, oh, I remember this episode. Because it's a new criminal, superpowered criminal. Superman has to use his head to try to beat him. But in the end, I was like, yeah, it's like, I was not a fan of the episode. And like I said, the actor is definitely not one of my favorites.
Yeah, and the fact that Johnny is tied so closely to Lois through the fact that he's dating Lucy as well, so you're like, it's all very convenient, isn't it?
Yeah,
and they try to tie in this, you know, brand new thing, the internet, and they track down this whole uranium thing, because I guess they got the uranium from Lex Labs as well.
Right.
So they're looking up on this, like, storage database or something, and, you know, they have this whole thing where Clark has to put in the password, and while Lois isn't looking, he just does it, like, super quick, puts through, like, every permutation that could be possible.
Which, truthfully, you know, in today's day and age, there'd be a lockout after, like, 5 wrong attempts, you know, and then you got the call an administrator, or you'd have to, like, email yourself a reset and all this other stuff. But yeah, he just goes through like a million different versions right away.
Well, and at the same time, I mean, like, I know Superman is fast, but man, if it was just a combination of random letters and numbers, uppercase and lowercase and stuff like I mean, come on, seriously. And could the computer keep up with him putting them in that quickly? Probably
That's
not.
true, yeah, that's true.
Suspension of disbelief.
Exactly. We do that a lot.
So Johnny's out, and he's got these new abilities, and he just thinks he's all that and stuff, and he gets revenge on Angel, you know, for kind of throwing him under the bus like that, and there's some fights and stuff, and it's all just a bit, you know, it's not really that epic.
No, it could, like, again, it's like that fight between him and Resplendent Man, you know? It's like, the possibility is there for this to be an epic battle, because he's fighting someone who's as strong as him, but it's kind of just like, all right. That's it.
Yeah, they try to throw in this thing too of like Superman's embarrassed that he lost a fight as well. Everyone's like, oh my god, like how often do we get to see Superman like lose?
Yeah, that was a bit odd, I thought.
Yeah, so Lois becomes like attracted to all this like caringness.
Yes.
And says, oh, he's a lot like Clark, I guess, he's fragile.
Mm-hmm.
At that moment, it's like she has a light bulb moment, She's
A little
comparing
bit,
Clark and Superman, and you think almost, has she put it together?
Right.
They don't really follow up on that.
This is something I saw a lot in the back issues that people had mentioned. This was a good moment. They like that.
And it's just kind of how it plays out. Like Lucy doesn't want to be with Johnny anymore because he's all like cold and metal and stuff like that. So
Exactly.
There's this whole thing about the Mobius strip, which is the symbol that they put on his chest or something. And it's like, why would you use your company's brand on your evil robot that robs things and stuff? It leads them straight to Infinity Labs.
Of course.
So, this whole episode was just, it wasn't the best.
Well, remember, these are those writers from Sliders that we had taken some issues with at a couple points. So, yeah.
And then, like I said, like there's just a quick face-off between Superman and Johnny. And he defeats him just by not getting close to him. But Rolly does escape with the kryptonite.
He does, which is cool, which I don't remember if we see him again or not, but I would hope so.
Emmett is captured by Superman, and Metallo's just, like, melted down, and I guess he's ostensibly dead now.
Yeah, I would assume so, because he was, like, shutting off at the end there. He was, like, skipping a track or something like that. He's like,
God, that was so annoying. That was even more annoying than, you are watching the Magic Channel. The Magic Channel. Oh, that was annoying. This was really, really annoying.
Right.
So that's pretty much it. So let's get into some bylines. So what do you think of Jimmy wanting a raise here?
Well, like we said last episode, it's good to get this B story, this byline with Jimmy and Perry. Gives them something more to do than just, like we said, advance the plot. It's something his character needs. He needs more money because he can't afford his apartment anymore. So it's kind of cool. I liked it.
Yeah, and it was good that he would bring it up all the time. Like, that's a really workplace thing. Every time you see this person, he's doing his job, but he's also complaining that, he's getting kicked out of his place. Yeah. He would like a raise. He's trying to ask for a raise, but he can't muster it to do it. Yeah. So it's like, it's cool. He kept bringing it up. And I kind of wish it, like we said in the investigation there, that we kind of had a bit more of like Perry slyly enjoying the fact that he knows what Jimmy wants and he's just going to wait for Jimmy to actually ask for it.
Right.
That would have been, just like the cherry on that storyline.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Did you notice that Diane got another line in this episode?
I didn't notice it. It's Diane Watch 2016. Dun, dun, dun.
It's literally one line where she calls out to somebody and says, "Hey, come on, let's we're gonna go to the story." And I was just like, "Was that Diane? What?"
Oh, Diane.
They throw her in like every few episodes or something. One line and off she goes.
Never noticed her ever until you started, commenting on her. So, interesting.
Okay, I kind of enjoyed this part of it. Perry being upset that Lois wouldn't let Jimmy take pictures of Superman defeated.
Oh, yeah. It was good.
This was interesting. I mean, it was a little bit out of character for Perry to be so upset by it. Like, I think he would have been a bit more understanding. But, just the idea that, we're a newspaper and we get the story no matter what the story is. I kind of liked it.
Yeah, this comes up in the back issues as well. People did like that. They like this, that Perry is actually, acting like a real editor would act.
We did have this random-ass scene in a post office with this woman who smells everything. What was this
I'm smelling the packages back here. Like, what?
She's like complaining that they don't have a sniffer dog, so she's just been smelling everything.
Yes.
So weird.
It was funny, though. And I thought it was odd that they just go in there and they don't even have, like, any official identification. But they're like, yeah, we're investigators from the blah, blah, blah department and we need access to da-da-da. And they're just, okay, whatever. No checking and calling, confirming. Just, okay, we'll give you everything.
And then the lead out of the episode. Superman tells Lois that she and Clark are lucky to have each other. And then she tries to call him but doesn't get an answer. And she kind of makes you wonder what she wanted to talk to him about.
Mm-hmm.
Because I almost thought that he would answer, you know, like Superman had just left.
Right.
And I was like, okay, he's going to answer, you know, he's just gone straight home. But yeah, he doesn't actually pick up the phone. So I was a bit like, interesting. Especially with that light bulb moment that she had earlier. I was a bit like,
yeah.
Are we going somewhere now?
I don't think it was that he was, like, remember how we were talking about when he fell asleep and she was telling him how she kind of liked him? I don't think it's, like we said then, he actually did fall asleep. We don't think that he was, like, trying to play her, you know, to play a game. I don't think he was answering not to answer. I think he was probably just doing his Superman thing, you know?
Yeah.
He probably didn't expect that she would call, you know? So he's just out doing his thing. And I think it's very telling that Lois is kind of getting closer. You know, like she's feeling closer to Clark than she has before, especially with these last two episodes. You know, the last one, how they ended like they did together on Christmas, and then this one here where she wants to talk to him. She feels like she wants to, like, you know, at least speak to him, you know, hear his voice. So it's good.
Yeah, so I think at the end of it, there's a couple of interesting things that were going on here, but the actual main story and the plot of the story itself, yeah, just a bit weak, really.
Yeah, it was. It was very weak. The best parts, you know, like I said, I like the Jimmy stuff, you know, that he had going on, and I like this part here at the end with Lois and trying to call him everything. That was for me, that was the better parts of the episode.
I'm sorry. I guess I didn't realize how late it was.
Well, it's not late. I was just taking an early bath.
I wanted to apologize for having left so abruptly the other day.
You don't have to apologize. I mean, I guess I was a little worried. Actually, I was very worried about you.
Lois.
You know, I thought for a while there that I might never see you again.
I'm sorry you had to go through that. Lois, I want you to know that I think that what you did for Clark showed incredible bravery.
It was nothing.
Was it?
I guess not. I guess there isn't anything I wouldn't do for him.
I think you two are very lucky to have each other. Good night, Lois.
All right, so we just have a little bit in the way of back issues.
Actually, we have a lot, but I didn't want to copy and paste everything in there because it was too much, and I'm going to try to sum it up as much as possible. But there wasn't much for the first episode for the season's greetings that I could find. But basically, you know, they liked Sherman Hemsley. There was like he was a great asset this episode. It was nice to see him again with Wheezy Jefferson, and she couldn't remember her name either. She was like Isabel Hoffman or whatever. I don't remember. And then they said, we're glad to see this one. Laugh through the whole thing. Let's just hope there's more new episodes that are coming with more frequency. So I don't know if there was like interruptions, if they were being preempted for stuff, but they in general, they seem to like this episode.
Well, yeah, that episode was at the beginning of December, Christmas episode. And then this, you know, the second one didn't air until the new year, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So now there's a lot for the second episode, Metallo, for some reason. I don't know why, but there was a ton of it. One of the things was when he was melting at the end, a couple people had commented that they immediately started thinking of the Wizard of Oz, and they were expecting him to be like, I'm melting.
Wow.
And they're like, yeah. And they said, thank God they didn't have him say, I love you to Lucy when he died, because that would have been cheesy, you know, just cheesy and so typical of what you would, you know, what you would say. A lot of people don't like the new Jimmy yet. They're still not on board with him, which is fine. I mean, I'm okay with the new Jimmy. I kind of like him. The one thing that they asked was, and I wondered this too, how was Superman able to heal himself by using his heat vision on his cut?
I guess it's just like cauterizing a wound, I guess.
Yeah, I guess, because it disappeared. Like the whole, like,
True.
It was, you know, it was like gone. It's like, I've never seen him do that before. But hey, suspension of disbelief, I guess. So let's see. They liked seeing Lucy Lane. They liked having her back, you know, even though it's a different character. They were glad to see her again. This person said, yeah, I do like the, you know, how Lois recognizes the same qualities, you know, that Clark has as Superman. But they really don't like the, they said the lame cyborg pseudoscience, you know, and, you know, it's like, like we said, suspension of disbelief. You can't get too on them about stuff like that because it is just a show. You know, it's not supposed to be a scientific, true to life show. You know, it's just it's sci-fi, science fiction. So you got to give them some leeway for the science part of it. They said that the biggest disappointment for Lois and Clark for them is the lack of plausible villains since Lex Luthor died, which I can see that. You know, they said that Lois and Clark really needs a science and technology advisor, you know, just help things, you know, feel better when you're watching it. They did like Perry White, like I said, you know, they thought, you know, like you said, it seemed a bit out of his character, but they liked the fact that he's like doing what an editor does. You know, it's like we do have a job. We're supposed to be putting a paper out. So they like the fact that he's, you know, calling them on that and saying, hey, you know, you got to take these pictures. You know, we got to be impartial, which you do, you know, which you do. So that was good. They said far and away Justin Whalen's best episode. You know, some of them are starting to really enjoy his take on the character. And they felt that this Jimmy works with this, with the way they're writing him now. They said the enthusiasm that Justin Whalen uses, the energy he has, it works. But with the other guy, Michael Landis, they said it doesn't seem like that would have fit him because he was a different type of actor, you know.
Yeah.
And so it fits Justin Whalen the way they do it.
And just finally, Jimmy's getting a little bit more to do.
Well, exactly.
You appeared in both these episodes.
Yeah, definitely.
Last two episodes. So yeah, he's doing stuff finally. Thank God.
So yeah, there was, like I said, there was a lot for this episode for some reason. Just they really went in depth on Metallo. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. Well, our next issue, we will be discussing Chi of Steel and The Eyes Have It.
Yes.
So, what do you reckon?
Chi of Steel. I remember at one point, Superman does face off against some, but I think that's a later episode, though. He faces off against some strong woman.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, it's not like he fights like a ninja or a samurai or something.
Well, he does. Well, he fights against someone later on, but I don't think it's this. I'm thinking of a later episode because I think she had superpower. I can't remember. Or maybe she was a robot again or something. I don't know. But yeah, for this
they
one,
have 2 robot episodes in a row, really.
I know. Chi of Steel. Yeah, I'm going to say something with like ninjas or, you know, martial arts are involved.
Probably.
And see, like, I've seen a bunch of episodes of like so many shows. Like, I think I'm getting things mixed up. Like, I remember there was an episode of something where there was a daughter who knew martial arts, but her grandfather didn't want her to study martial arts, but she does it anyway, and somehow she gets involved in a crime or something. Maybe I wonder if that's this one, or am I thinking of a totally different show? I don't know.
Kind of does sound familiar,
doesn't it? And
maybe something with like some sort of like ancient power gloves or something.
Yeah, and the guy who played the grandfather is familiar. He played like the father in Wayne's World.
No, I was thinking, was it the guy from Big Trouble in Little China? The guy from the Chinese restaurant episode of Seinfeld. Seinfeld?
Oh, yeah. That's the same guy I was thinking of for this Chi of Steel. What the heck is his...
I think he might be in it as like the grandfather who doesn't want the girl to fight.
James Hong.
Yes,
that's who it is. Yeah, James Hong. So I'm thinking he is the guy, and I'm not on the IMDb, so I can't see if he was in Lois and Clark. I just looked up his picture.
Now you're saying it, I'm remembering that episode.
Yeah, maybe this is him.
That could be.
Maybe this is the episode we're thinking of. All right, well, look at that. We talked that one out.
Nice.
Now, the eyes have it. I don't know, but I'm assuming something to do with the eyes.
Maybe like the third eye in Buddhism or something. I don't know.
Oh, I didn't. Yeah, I wasn't even going there. I was thinking
maybe something to do with like heat vision or something. Or he's...
No. I remember now. Superman goes blind.
Okay, I don't remember that.
Yeah, there was an episode where he went blind, and I don't remember how it happened, but he was blind.
For some reason, he goes blind.
Yeah, for some reason he goes blind. I don't remember what it was, but somehow he goes blind, and he has to have help getting around his house and stuff like that. And because I remember he was cooking. Superman was in Clark's apartment, and he was cooking something, and he put his hand on like a burner that was on, you know, and it's burning his flesh, but he doesn't know because, you know, I think the Kents come into this episode to help him. Yeah, I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Cool.
Well, we will find out if we were right next week, because that's it for this issue of the Rewatch Podcast. Keep up with listener interaction by liking our Facebook page at facebook.com/Rewatch Podcast or facebook.com/Lois and Clark Rewatch. Don't forget to follow the show on Twitter at Rewatch Pod, and you can visit our webpage at rewatchpodcast.podomatic.com, which has some of our favorite links there, such as zoomway.net, folc.wiki.com, and the Superman homepage. And we have links to our archive of film rewatch episodes there as well.
Yes, and while we're on that topic, I did want to mention that, in recent time, we've had to start removing episodes from our main feed.
Right.
And it's really just a storage versus cost issue at this time. So we are working towards actually getting that problem fixed, and that may include moving away from Podomatic and going somewhere else. But hopefully we can rectify that and get all of our episodes back into the main feed, so we don't have all these separate feeds for sliders and our movie rewatches and everything.
Right.
And we can try to keep it all contained in that feed. So yeah, we'll get there. Bear with us. But yeah, in the meantime, if you are doing a sliders rewatch or anything like that, know that there are links. Those episodes are available, but just on separate feeds. But remember, you can always write us an email or record a voice message and send it over to the Rewatch Podcast at gmail.com if you got any thoughts on the episodes we're talking or about our show in general. We love to hear from you guys. So
yes.
If you have enjoyed the show, please consider giving us a rate and review on iTunes. And you can always help support us here at the Rewatch Podcast by heading over to patreon.com/Rewatch Podcast and make a monthly contribution as little as $1. And of course, we are up on YouTube, so just search the Rewatch Podcast and subscribe. All right, well, thank you for joining me for these 2 episodes, Tom. It's been great after a few weeks off.
Mm-hmm.
And I will just say, until next time, I don't know if I want to spend some dumb, trippy, kissy-face Christmas. I want to go to Graceland.
We gotta fly.
The Rewatch Podcast is not associated with Warner Brothers Television, ABC, Gangbuster Films Incorporated, or Roundelay Productions.
Don't believe everything you see on TV.
The use of any and all copyrighted material is only for parody, news analysis, critique, or educational purposes as provided in United States Code Title 17, aka Fair Use.
Let's get legal on this.
Music provided by Kevin McCloud at incompetech.com.
Great shades of Elvis.
Copyright 2016, The Rewatch Podcast.
Wear your beepers. We'll be in touch.
Hi, Rewatch Podcast listeners. I'm Corey.
I'm Tom.
And I'm Nathan.
First off, let me say that we have all had a blast doing the Rewatch Podcast. Every week, we put out another episode for free for you. And although we enjoy these discussions with each other, we truly do this for you guys out there in podcast land.
That's right, Corey. But we are here today to tell you about Patreon. Every week, there are costs involved in podcasting about film and television, including hosting and bandwidth charges, our own personal internet usage, and film or show rentals and purchases. So, we're asking you to become a Patreon supporter.
If you can afford as little as $1 to throw our way per month, it would really help us keep the lights on. And if you want to send $100 our way every month, we wouldn't turn that down either. But it's your choice, and we appreciate the support you bring.
As always, we strive to bring you the best quality shows we can create, and we hope that you enjoy them. So head on over to patreon.com/Rewatch Podcast to become one of our patrons and show your support for the Rewatch Podcast.
And if we get enough patrons, we may even be able to produce exclusive content just for the supporters in the form of simply getting episodes before the main feed release, or even bonus film discussion episodes as a thank you for your support. The website again is patreon.com/Rewatch Podcast.
Thanks, everyone.